Bonjour, monsieur et mademoiselle. Ça va bien, merci. Ooh, we get a job driving Uber. We almost get caught up with underage girls, and we definitely get caught having an affair. Astaghfirullah. We are talking Hulu's Ramy Season 1, Episode 7 and 8, Ne me quitte pas, and Saving Michaela. The AfterBuzz After Show starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz.
That's right. Ne me quitte pas. As we get French on you, all of you Ramy fans, we're talking episode 7 and 8, Saving Michaela, and Ne me quitte pas, Ne me quitte pas. Hulu's Ramy Season 1. Let me explain what's going on because so much is happening. This is honestly Hulu's best show. It's for everybody. I hate reading comments how Ramy is such a Middle Eastern show, or I don't get it, I'm Middle Eastern. This is an American tale. This is, sure, being Middle Eastern helps, but being American helps even more. This is the millennial Muslim who is Ramy Youssef, and this voice is so Ramy. However, I'm not Ramy. I am Tehran, and I will be your host as I'm joined by the wonderful panel of all of you at home. It's just us right now. So it's me, you, and every one of you at home. Thank you so much for commenting. We always appreciate everything you have to say. Please make sure to share and subscribe and let the world know that the blessing that is this show. Amazingly done, Ramy. Today's breakdown for episode 7, Ne me quitte pas. We're going to talk Ramy's mom is feeling lonely. Ne me quitte pas, of course, meaning don't leave me in French. Mom on Facebook, mom's marriage. Mom starting to reminisce. This was all about mom. Mom working out. Mom meets a friendly Lyft driver. Then mom becomes a friendly Lyft driver. Mom makes food. Mom's favorite ride. Mom takes a ride. Uh-oh, that one was giving me anxiety. Mom and dad remember. Now that one was giving me anxiety in a different way. For episode 8, we're going to break that down as well. Saving Michaela. Michaela, of course, being the name of the young lady who was saved, literally and figuratively in a way. Ramy buys something for Ali, that's Salma's son. Then Mo calls out Ramy in front of his son. Ramy hangs out with Steven, and we learn so much about them. Ramy at the gas station, that was one of the best scenes of the entire season. Girls are underage. Ramy and the sister or friend, and Allahu Akbar kicking down the door, kicking the dough, waving the faux. Michaela to the hospital. Daddy's home. And that one gave me the most anxiety of all. Of course, we have a special segment, Speaking Ramy, where we learn an Arabic phrase that we use throughout the show and a bit of news and gossip. Let's get right down to the nitty gritty. So episode 7, Ne me quitte pas, Don't Leave Me in French, was all about Ramy's mom. Here we have Ramy's mom, who's an amazing character, and we all love her so much. I mean, her just presence always brings light to the stage. And what I mean by that is that she always contributes such a dynamic persona. She is the epitome of what we, if you know Middle Eastern moms, is a Middle Eastern mom. We have so much respect for how she plays this. Haim Abbas is just an amazing actor all across the board. And in this episode, we get so much of her in depth. Overall, it was just such a wonderful perspective to see how mom, or this Middle Eastern mom, is feeling lonely, feeling that the love or the romance in the relationship is gone, and how she almost meanders outside of her relationship. Starting off, of course, Ramy's mom. We get that sense of loneliness because when the episode starts, Ramy's mom is on Facebook and she's not interacting. Here she sees her friends have likes. Her friends are getting friend requests and she's by herself. She's looking through and she's like, why am I not getting likes? What is this Instagram? What is this Facebook? Why am I not involved? Why is my life not as meaningful as all of theirs? We also get Ramy leaving. Ramy's leaving, not the nest necessarily, but kind of. He has his own life. Ramy is his own person. So here is a woman who's dedicated her life to her family, and now all of the birds have left the nest, and it really just leaves her. She's alone by herself all day long. and she doesn't know what to do with herself. She doesn't know how to keep busy anymore. I mean, before she had what was a purpose. The purpose was to raise a family and to be a good homemaker and to be a good wife and be a loving, adoring woman to her husband. And now she has none of that. And she's feeling that maybe it's not only do I not have any of that, I also, maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's not enough to keep me content. She clearly wants more. We see that with the Facebook. We see that in her attitude. We see her when she's looking at the girls working out. She's looking at them and she's smoking through the window, but you can tell she desires for that life. And it's not so much working out or being healthy. It's social behavior. It's friends. It's being out and about. It's being important, feeling wanted or needed, or having a life of your own. All three people in her life, her husband and her two children, have lives of their own. Dina's in school. Ramy is just living life, being out and about. And then, of course, her husband just works all the time. A very typical Middle Eastern dad thing to do is work. They bring it up. Well, they wouldn't even know what to do without work. They live through their work. It's the sense of self-value. A lot of the Middle Eastern dads, that's what they were raised on. That's what they know. They work. And I'm not talking Rihanna. So mom, she's feeling lonely. And this makes her feel a bit vulnerable. She also then, we see this existential look at her marriage where there's no relationship. Everything's almost the same. The kids are never home. She sits on the couch. Her husband and her are sitting as far apart as possible, as you can see. We see her sitting. So Farouk is on one side of the couch. They're both watching a movie. When she moves closer, Farouk is unfazed. He's just watching this movie, this soap opera. And that happens in a lot of Middle Eastern households. You don't even want to know about the Turkish soap operas. Turkish soap operas are like crack. Everyone just sits there and watches these soap operas from morning to night. So when Farouk gets home, he's tired. He just wants to eat his little food and watch his little movie. He doesn't want to interact. He doesn't, even their conversation is very superficial and superfluous. It's just all surface. There's no real conversation. It's all simple things like, how was your day? How was your day? Nothing to the nitty gritty. And that was one of the concerns. Ramy's mom is just feeling very lonely and out of place here. This is her partner. And you get the sense that there has to be more. I mean, but their marriage, they base it on through their children. Now that the children are grown up and moved on, what is their marriage really about? Who are these people? What do they do? Ramy's mom had a life way before the marriage. So where is this life? Where is it going to take her? She's feeling that void. And it's actually a very sobering picture that Ramy plays for us. Great episode, by the way. And it was Bridget Bedford was the director and was the writer, and Shireen DeBeast was the director. And having these two female voices, now of course Ramy writes on all the shows, but having these two strong female voices just be a concept, and with Shireen being a Palestinian actor herself and then a director as well, she just got these subtle nuances for Haim down. It was almost as if we were living inside the lack of momentum of a Middle Eastern mom. Now, anyone with a Middle Eastern family has seen this side where the parents are married, and at times it seems as if it's an arbitrary marriage. You see something where in the media, of course, love is portrayed where it's always flashing lights and prom gowns and tuxedos. But that's not the marriage we very much see in a Middle Eastern household. Oftentimes in Middle Eastern families, parents even sleep in different rooms. It's just customary. They like to sleep differently, and so they sleep in different rooms. And we see a bit of that with Ramy and Farouk. With Ramy's mom and Farouk, or his dad. Mesa's just not, right? So how does that feel to be a mom? You're in this marriage. Now you're no longer a mom. Now you're a wife, but you're not even feeling like a wife. Watching her just almost feel like, oh, she's losing it a little. She's losing it a little. But Ramy's always dipping out. We see in the beginning of the scene, Ramy is leaving, taking the car because Ramy takes mom's car. Ramy still taking mommy's car, still living at home. Something that's also a very honestly understandable Middle Eastern American character trait where an older 28-year-old still lives at home. Now, mind you, a lot of millennials still live at home for financial reasons. But a lot of, especially American Western families, would be like, "Oh, well, you're paying rent." That's not what's going to happen in a Middle Eastern family. You're at home. You're welcome to the home as long as you want. As long before marriage, you're actually kind of expected to stay home. Ramy's out all the time. He's taking the car. He's leaving. Well, here we go. Mom is waiting on the porch. She's waiting on the porch for Ramy to come pick her up in her own car. Ramy kind of takes advantage of mom. Ramy is used to just getting his way and getting what he wants, and tells mom, "I'm watching the game, Mom. I'm watching a game. I don't know what to tell you. I'm busy right now." Where's Dina? Dina's at the movies. We're busy right now. We don't need you in a way. Mom, I'll get you a lift. When Ramy's mom is waiting on the porch, waiting for her car to go shopping in order to cook food, which she does every single day, is cook food from scratch for this family, food that no one ever eats because they're always gone and busy. Ramy is too busy to pick up his mom. Right on the heels of Mother's Day, by the way. So Ramy's too busy to pick up mom, orders mom a lift. Now, we get a concern. The concern is you give this stranger our address, is basically the concept of a Middle Eastern mind. And as that conspiracy turns, I love it. Watching Ramy's mom just be like, "No, they have our address," as if that really means anything anymore. Having address, you can just Google it. You're on Facebook, Mom. But that's how they feel. And that scene where we get two scenes back to back where Ramy's mom needs Ramy. The Facebook scene where anyone who has a Middle Eastern parent knows when it comes to technology, they will always ask you to do it. One time my dad asked me to come and write an email for him, and the email was to me. So that's just how Middle Eastern parents will always kind of ask for help from their children, especially when it comes to Western nuances. And this one, she doesn't understand the concept of Lyft. Lyft kind of dries up. It's a stranger that picks you up. She gets in the car reluctantly, but knows that she has to go to the market. She gets in the car. Ramy promises to pick her up from the store. But once she's in the car, she's enjoying the interaction. Here we have an Uber driver who's just friendly and fun and talking to her. And that's something she's missed. She hasn't had anyone to talk to for so long. She isn't talking to her kids. She isn't talking to her husband. Who else is there? There's this Uber driver. Boom. All of us get so annoyed when Uber drivers are too friendly. She was loving it. He asked her to have some water if she wants, a mint, and that changed her perspective. I mean, she just brightened up. She felt served. She felt taken care of, and that's what she was missing. She wants to feel taken care of. Well, there we go. That actually enables her and inspires her to become a Lyft driver herself. Ramy's mom has such a good time. How many times has that ever happened? Where you've had such a good time in an Uber or Lyft and you become an Uber or Lyft driver. Ramy's mom has such a good time, and it's not for the money. She might not even understand how the money is made or not. She's literally doing it for the social interaction in order to meet and greet and meet up with people. She's picking them up, but we also find that not everyone likes being talked to, and she is not always the best driver, Lyft driver. Ramy's mom has her own agenda for doing this, and I'll bet you it'll make you think twice about why you take Lyft and who you're taking Lyft with and how they act towards you, because it definitely made me think twice. I started realizing that sometimes when the Lyft driver talks to you, it's because they feel lonely. They want a friend, and you get to be their friend for the 10, 15, 20 minutes that you're in their car. So mom's becomes this Lyft driver, washes the car, gets it Lyft ready, adds some drinks and mint in the back, and each fare she picks up seems to be worse and worse and meaner and meaner and meaner and meaner. And you almost feel bad for her, and you start feeling bad for your Lyft driver. The first call, of course, this very privileged person is just cursing. It's like, I'm here, which always happens with the Lyft driver where the car goes somewhere where it's not supposed to and then comes back. And we all get so frustrated. But watching it from the perspective of the driver and Ramy's mom, watching it from Mesa made me maybe feel like I'm never going to get mad at my Uber driver for not picking me up where I'm at. It was actually a very, very nice moment to watch it happen. It was very introspective, to say the least. Now, Mom's driving Lyft. She's doing all kinds of things. She has all these ideas. She wants to be, in her mind, she wants to be the best Lyft driver in the world. She's going to provide water and mints and conversation. Then she starts taking it a next step and she starts providing food. I mean, that's one of her best things to do, is that she is a provider and a cook. So why not use both skills? She makes, as we see, Tupperwares and Tupperwares of food and gets them all prepared and ready. And you're thinking, oh, it's for her family. No, it's actually she's taking it and telling the passengers to feel free to get some food or take whatever food is there. The passengers feel uncomfortable with this. And we see one passenger who gets out. And it's like, and she's like, but you have 7 minutes left in the ride. And it's okay. I would just like to walk anyway. It's a nice day. And that's a real thing. We get a lot of that. And once again, it makes you realize who you are in relation to your Uber or Lyft driver. That's how it makes you feel. We live in this shared economy where Uber drivers and Lyft drivers make a living doing this work. And sometimes we take it for granted and take them for granted, the same way that Ramy was taking for granted and taking his mom for granted at the same time. It was a very interesting dichotomy. But not all the rides were bad. No. In comes Mr. French. Bonjour, bonjour. We get the French passenger, Jacques, or played by the actor Jean Brassard. He gets in the car and immediately they bond over the fact that they're both foreign, and then it comes out that they both speak French. Of course, a lot of people from the Middle Eastern diaspora, French becomes a part of the language, whether you live in France, whether you live in Egypt. Of course, there are some countries that are Arab related, Morocco, Algeria, that are French speaking countries as well. You get that a lot through the Muslim world. I mean, it's very common. Senegal, for example, people speak French. It's the native tongue. So you get a lot of French influence when it comes to the Middle East. The French were very much influential in the Middle East. A lot of Iranian citizens, of course, expats live in France, and French becomes part of the culture. Lebanon, very French-oriented places. So here we get Ramy's mom, who's Palestinian, grew up in Egypt, also lived in France, speaks French fluently. Not a shocking thing in the Arab world, but it's interesting to realize how many Americans might not have been aware of that. How many Americans might not be aware that a lot of Middle Easterners are trilingual, if nothing else. My French is a little rusty, but my brother's French, for example, is almost excellent. It just depends how much practice you get and where all you went to school, but that's the concept. So she speaks French. They bond immediately and they're talking, and Ramy's mom, Mesa's just having a good time. You can tell she relaxes. She has a smoke with him. They talk, and she's enamored by the idea of someone being interested in her, telling her how beautiful she is and how she looks like a superstar. And she was like, when I was younger, maybe. And it was just it started out innocent, but then it moved on to flirting. And it's more than her just flirting. She's being receptive. She's being receptive to being complimented. She's being receptive to being treated nice. She's being receptive to not being taken for granted. This is a person who seems to value her company and her opinion, and it makes her feel so wanted. You actually forget that she's got a family. She's got a husband. You're like, well, he doesn't pay her attention. Her family's always gone. At least this guy's there. It's such a great momentous equation that they place in the show. It's also something that you don't hear or see often from a Middle Eastern woman. And it reminds you that Middle Eastern women are people too. And it's something that needs to be reminded of, especially in Middle Eastern diaspora families. So we get the bonding over French, to the point where it makes her want to remember. She goes home and starts looking through old photos. Ramy's mom looks through old photos and remembers who she is. And through remembering who she is, she also finds the dad. She starts seeing themselves together and how it was and how it used to be and how pretty and young she was, and she feels vibrant and vivacious again. And Farouk is still not really paying attention to her. She's paying attention to herself. So when she gets the call, and this is after her being, basically she was a little dismayed, and another piece of bonding that happened between her and Jacques was, of course, of how America treats them or how America feels. And even though she realizes how great America has been to her and her family, she also misses home. And Jacques, in a way, feels much like home and vice versa. So when he calls again, guess what? She's ready to go. She gets dressed up. Mom puts her freakum dress on. She puts her freakum dress on. Yeah, it was a blouse, but still. She gets her freakum wear on, and she's ready to go, and she's ready to go out in the world, and she thinks, in a way, yes, we know this isn't a date, but it's like a date. Jacques had asked for her personal number, asked for her number personally, and was basically like, I'll call you every time I need a ride. So she's thinking that Jacques wants to take her out. Maybe they'll hang out some more. She wants to be attractive. She wants to hear those compliments again. You don't feel like she might actually cheat, but it's possible. But you're more feeling like she enjoys his attention. She enjoys hearing the things that she hasn't heard in what seems to be a very long time. And when she picks up Jacques, there's a new passenger involved. There's an added passenger, an added bonus. Jacques, who comes in and is like, bonjour, Mesa. And Mesa's like, who the are you? And of course, it turns out to be Jacques' wife, and that she felt like she was lied to. She was deceived. He misrepresented himself. He played himself, especially if you watched in the beginning, he played himself almost as if he was single. You felt some type of attraction between the two. There was some type of camaraderie, something. There was more than just the average, these are friends. There was a lot more. There was a lot of flirtation going on. There was a little bit of touching and hair and there was the hair back, and he seemed to be hitting on her, and it was very shocking to find out that, yes, indeed, he is married. He's married. And here, Jacques married, and the wife's in the car, and now it feels awkward. And now Mesa feels betrayed. Yes, she acts betrayed. She feels betrayed. She drops them off at the airport and then speeds off as if something had just happened. And we all know from that perspective, she's so sad because she was in the way smitten. Now, the question is, was she smitten with Jacques, or was she smitten with the idea of Jacques? Was she actually in not love, but lust or in like with Jacques? Or was she in like with the idea of a man who showed her attention? That's what makes it very important to distinguish. And I'm under the thought that it was showing her attention. It made her feel good. And yes, Jacques wasn't he wasn't difficult on the eyes. He was cute and nice, handsome older gentleman who seemed to have his stuff together. He spoke very well. He was eloquent. And of course, the French, once you hit them with the bonjour, oui, oui, then you already know where that's going. So mom takes that ride, but then gets frustrated when Jacques has a wife and speeds off. And then mom goes home and dad's on the couch as always. And mom brings up her French, and dad says, I miss that you don't speak French. And she goes, I used to speak French. And he's like, yeah, you used to speak to me all the time in French. You used to curse in French. I used to sometimes make you mad just to hear you curse in French. That was actually a very cute, very sexy line. It besides what it sparked, the concept of liking something of someone so much that you put yourself through aggravation just to get it. It was a very spontaneous moment. And then, of course, spontaneously, they kiss. Mom and dad rekindle some type of sexual energy. Farouk and Maisa kiss. And kissing leads to touching, and touching leads to getting it on right there on the couch. We get it on the couch. Kids are away. The adults, the parents will play. Now, we don't know when the kids are going to come home. In the whole time, I was thinking Ramy or Dina's going to come home. It's going to be a thing. They're going to have to like mix up. I just felt that tension, that I felt worried for them, but of course they never did. They are having sex, but that wasn't the point of the scene. The point of the scene was not only how quick it kind of went, but the fact that she enjoyed it so immensely. And right after, Farouk was back into the movie to the point where he rewound and was like, this is the funniest parts we're missing, and changes and rewinds it to get to that funny part. And it's just like, yeah, Maisa had a moment, but it was gone. That Farouk would be Farouk, would be Farouk, would be Farouk. But Maisa's a bit content. She goes out and she has this epiphany and this moment of thought. You can only tell it on her face on the porch. And she just thinks to herself, oh, what a wonderful life. Now let's get into episode 8, Saving Michaela. But before we do, I just want to take the time to thank all of you at home for being, if not as much, more a part of this panel than all of us. And by all of us, I mean just me right now. But the concept is we appreciate each and every one of you for watching all of our after shows. We ask you to please share and subscribe and comment. When you comment, it boosts us in the rating and more people can find us, and we get to share even more great content. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us that 5 stars we so greatly deserve. But until you guys do, I would love to give a shout out to all the people that have been writing the comments. We appreciate each and every one of you, and let you know thank you so much for letting us be the ESPN of TV talk. We do talk about all your favorite programs, and all your favorite programs are probably something that I host. So make sure to stay tuned and share and subscribe. Now, episode 8, Saving Michaela. Saving Michaela was okay. We had a mom storyline. Okay. We had a Dina storyline. Okay. But now we need to get back to the crutch that is Ramy. And that's what Saving Michaela does. We get more Ramy than we have in a little while. We get Ramy, and we get back to the affair that he's having with Selma. It's almost as if we forgot. We thought maybe it would have been a one-time thing, but now it seems that it was, if nothing else, on again, off again. They seem very comfortable in having just had intercourse and laying in bed together. And it's in that moment. And what Ramy does, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, all of you at home. Ramy pulls out a gift, except it's not for Selma. The gift is for Ali, her son with her husband, who she's still married to. It's almost hard to remember, because we enjoy Ramy so much, that Ramy is part of an affair. An affair, sure, Selma has a bigger part to play. She's married, but Ramy is breaking all kind of codes, especially the one at his mosque, a moral code, a religious code, an ethical code, and a brotherly code. He's breaking them all, and here he is buying something for Ali, and Selma freaks the F out. I mean, Selma's like, oh my God, why would you ever do that? Why would you buy something for my son? Who are you to think of my son? And she is not having it. She is not happy with it. And the gift was simply, it was a $2 fidget spinner, one of the spinners that you just put between your thumb and your forefinger, you spin around to pass the time. But I believe she was right. This isn't what you're for. This is a mistake. Ramy's just such a nice guy. He wants to justify what he's doing, but you're not this child's father. And in fact, you are breaking or wrecking their home. You are a home wrecker. We would call that to any woman that did something similar. You are a home wrecker, Ramy. And guess who reminds him of that? His best friend, my favorite and my good friend, Mo Amer. Mo reminds Ramy that he is a homewrecker. He calls Ramy out in front of his son. They have a conversation right there in Mo's living room, and Mo's just like, you're a homewrecker. You're doing the worst thing. He's saying it in a fun tone, but you know he really truly means it, especially since he comes from a married household himself. This is the unfathomable, the unthinkable. Ramy is sleeping with a married woman. If this can happen to this gentleman's wife, then it maybe happen to his wife. That is how a feeling gets to play. And so Mo has his son call Ramy a homewrecker, and it was the cutest scene. And Mo's having such a real conversation right in front of his son, and the son's just kind of not paying attention, not understanding, until Mo's like, this is your Uncle Ramy. He's a homewrecker. And then Mo's son is like, homewrecker. He's like, yeah, homewrecker. And this goes back to the concept of when Ramy 2 episodes ago was confronted by Salma's son, Ali, and Ali was like, are you a bad guy? And we had a double entendre. Here we go again. Another one where it's just blatantly in your face. And Ramy is coming up with an existential crisis of some sorts. What he's doing is wrong. He sees himself as a good person, and yet what he's doing is wrong. And how do we justify that within ourselves? That is the big existential question that is being asked. That is the moral implication, is we think of ourselves as good, but we still often do bad things. And how do we perceive that? How do we internalize that? How can we digest that? Ramy and Mo in front of the sun. But Mo's not the only friend that Ramy has. So Ramy goes over to Steven's house, and here's the interesting thing. Steven, of course, being a paraplegic and not having full use and control of all of his limbs, is there, and he's met some girl. He met some girl online. He met some girl playing a game, and he's like, she wanted to meet up today. And Ramy's like, well, this must be fate. I haven't seen you in a while. This must be why I'm here. And Ramy volunteers, because he's running away from his problems. He volunteers to take Steve very far away to meet with this young lady. Once we get there, we find out a whole bunch of things that were unbeknownst to all of us about this girl. The whole way we're driving, we are questioning what girl would sleep with Steve. Now, before it gets too critical, let's remember Steve is a quadriplegic who doesn't have use of his limbs and doesn't actually have limbs. Ramy's had to hold him above the toilet. Ramy and his family, we see him, he's breathing oxygen. I mean, he's at risk of dying at any given time. So for Ramy, he's like, who is this girl? What does she know? Does she know that how is this gonna work? What's gonna happen? What are the logistics if you do get it on? And Steve's like, I need this one. I need to get there. And I can understand that. Steve doesn't look like he's the type of guy that gets just mad vagine, right? So the concept is we can feel for Steve going up to the place. We can understand where he's at, and we can wonder what happened or what could happen. In between that, Ramy goes to the gas station. Now, this is one of my favorite scenes of the entire season, the gas station scene, because I understand where it comes from. You meet someone who's the same race, character, ethnicity, countrymen, and they immediately think they have a camaraderie with you or a rivalry with you. And in this case, we get that, where the gas station attendant perceives that Ramy is Muslim, and Ramy has gone inside shortly after Ramadan. He's gone inside the store to purchase beer and condoms. Beer and condoms. And the store owner is looking at him like he must be crazy. He's buying these things. Like, obviously he's not a good Muslim, and we know that, but other Muslims don't know that. I mean, there's a facade that you keep up amongst other Muslims in order to let them think that everything is halal, everything is kosher, everything is blessed. You are a practicing Muslim. Of course, everyone falters, but you try to live to the best of your ability. That's not what Ramy did. Ramy's out there buying, basically he should be buying cocaine. And he's giving off the vibe that he's the one to do it. He even throws in, it's not for me, it's for my friend, and then goes, you know what, it's for me. Because at that point, what else can he do, right? Is he going to run out and bring this person a bottle and bottle opener? No, he just needs to get this transaction done with, especially when the gas station attendant gives him the judgmental look, and Ramy goes, it's for my friend in the car. And then the gas station attendant asks, well, bring your friend in then. And of course, that friend being Steve, it's not that easy to lug Steve around. And so Ramy just says, you know what? It is for me. It is for me. And then the gas station attendant sells him the items, but he's definitely judging him upon the purchase of these items. And it looks bad. And of course, Steven wanted the alcohol and the condoms because he's on his way to see this girl. And he goes to the girl, and we find that Michaela and her friend are very much underage. Man, that was such a revelation where we get these underage girls. Sheesh. That was tough because you go in and you're like, are you sure? Maybe they're 18, maybe, but we all feel some type of way, especially when you get a close up on the friend's face. The friend is definitely a minor. I mean, Christy is definitely a minor. She has braces. You're looking at Christy, played by Madison Hine, who is, by the way, just to let you know, is of course a young actor who's on her way up. And we get Michaela, who is played by Alexis G. Zoll. Alexis Zoll is also, at least she wasn't the younger of the two. Alexis is a little older, but they're both underage. And Ramy is, who now has gone out of his way, taking his friend on this adventure all the way up to where they are, gotten out the ramp because there were 2 steps instead of 1, and he had to get out the ramp. Ramy is now in an awkward situation. He wants to be loyal to his friend, who introduces Ramy as his aide, but he thinks that this is trouble, and he tries to warn Steve. He's like, Steve, we need to get the hell out of here. These girls are underage. I'm not going to jail. Parents don't seem to be around. They have alcohol. They seem to have ditched school. And then Ramy sees little tidbits like her marionette picture where she's a band member, which is recent. She's in high school. And it's just a situation where Steve says something that's so real. He says, I don't get the opportunities you do. Ramy says, yeah, I think they're underage. Steve says, I know, they're 16. She's 16. Ramy's like, we need to get out of here. Steve's like, 16 is the age of consent in New Jersey. Most of us would never feel comfortable with that. Most of us would have a problem with that. I mean, I've never even understood what people with that age difference even talk about. Like, what do you have in common besides your sexual organs? It's actually a very perverse way to think, but then you got to see it from Steve's perspective as well. And Steve is doing such a quote unquote guy thing, which is something we're way more aware of now than we've ever been in history, where Steve is just trying to get some. And that is the one where it's so refreshing to see Ramy not falter or waver on his moral compass. Even though he allows Steve to stay, it's with the warning, it's after all the information, and he's still he's very reluctant. He doesn't really want the girls to drink. He doesn't want to, and he brings all that up. He's actually a very good friend at this time. The only thing he could have done is if he snagged Steve, put him in the car, and made them leave, which would have been maybe crossing a bound. But still, the girls are underage. Now, while everything is going on inside with Gamer Girl and Steve on the inside, where we get Michaela and him inside a room, on the outside, we get Christy, who is the younger sister, we believe. We're not exactly sure. It never actually clarified on the show. They could be very good friends in very similar situations, but we're going with sister. We get Christy outside, and Christy is clearly depressed. So depressed that Ramy's actually willing to take his first taste of alcohol because she seems so down. He doesn't know what else to do to impress and relieve her. He's like, I'll take alcohol. I'll drink alcohol with you. You don't have to take measures or be depressed, or better yet, you don't have to commit suicide, because we do see that reference being made, and the cuts, if you notice the cuts that were on, and I'm showing my arm, I have no cuts, but if you saw the cuts where she had been cutting her wrist from side to side, remember that in a term of medical endearment is a show or a cry for help. Clearly she knows how to commit suicide if properly. Anyone and everyone does. However, this is a young girl who just wants to be loved. She wants to be loved, and it seems we get this other tip of the story that Michaela hooked up with her boyfriend, had sex with her boyfriend, and that's bothering her. And we get that Christy's just ultimately sad. There's clearly some psychological trauma in this person, whether it's a lack of family or a lack of good people in her circle, or just a lack of a trust in herself. She's having a tough time adjusting. She's not enjoying the grown-up part, and Ramy keeps bringing that up. And Christy keeps getting closer and closer to Ramy, both figuratively, metaphorically, and here's the kicker, physically getting closer to Ramy. And Ramy is backing up. Ramy is trying to not act. He's trying to be cool and act cool without being cool or acting cool. He's backing up. Christy at one point is like, let me smell your beard. He backs up. He's dodging and weaving like he's Mike Tyson in Tyson Punch-Out. It was really a great scene to watch as Ramy is just taken aback. And there are points in all the shows where Ramy's comedy comes to life, and you see the comedy. We see things that are his jokes outside of the show. Here we get the concept of Michaela needing saving. Now, when I say Michaela needs saving, Michaela goes into some type of shock from the drinking so much. I mean, she had poured tequila. Ramy was like, I don't drink and he won't either. I'm his aide. She drank all the tequila, and then she also had part of the bottle herself. So she's probably been drinking all day without food. So she's a little drunk. She's a little tipsy. Steven goes in the room with her. Then she starts barfing, and you can see the barf come out of the room. Steven has locked the door. Steven does not have the ability to open the door. Here, we get an interesting perspective where it's something that's happening in real time. Ramy has to react. Ramy's only way of doing anything to help is to break down the door. So, of course, he at first uses the shoulder as weak. Then Christy Googles how to break down a door, and it tells him to use his legs. He kicks and he kicks and he kicks and he kicks down that door. And while he's doing it, he's yelling, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And even Christy gets in on the action where she yells, Allahu Akbar. And here's the thing. I want everyone to understand this is a phrase we're going to go over, of course, a phrase, Allahu Akbar. So keep that in your mind as we get to our special segment. We are very close, but let me get to this, is that Michaela now is free of being trapped in her room with Steve, and Ramy and Steve are in their minds, they're thinking we should just leave. This is going to be trouble. Ramy's like, we should call. Christy cuts down, cops, no cops. And Ramy's like, you're no cops. So they grab Christy and they grab her sister. They grab her sister and they take her to the hospital. And that's when we meet the lawyer, and we see that the hospitals are always packed, and that has a thing to play with anything that comes up medical for future reference in the show. Hospitals are always packed. If you see, it was actually the psychology ward that was a little open, and Chrissy was willing to walk through that darkness, which actually makes me think about how she reacts at home, that darkness to get to a pillowcase so she could just stay there. But it doesn't work that way. She is put in intensive care and treatment. And that treatment is going to last approximately 6. It's going to last the moment, right? So we don't know. Michaela. And when Michaela is taken, who comes to Ramy's rescue? David. We see David in this episode. He's a doctor. And David comes out and he's like, I deal with this all the time. Come in. And takes her through the back so that Ramy doesn't have to go through the front. Now, Michaela's in the hospital, presumably being saved. This could have all went bad. I remember feeling so anxious for them as I'm watching the episode, because once again, the same way I felt in episode 7 when Mom and Dad were remembering, I felt that when Ramy and Christy or Steve and Michaela were in the room, or if maybe when they're all together, parents were going to come home, and somehow Ramy, who was almost an innocent bystander, was going to get in a lot of trouble just for being there. And I was worried, but that's not what happened. So, we made it. Ramy's clear and free, right? No. Ramy goes home, and Dad is waiting. Abba is waiting in the corner, waiting for Ramy, and says, and Ramy knows immediately something's wrong. Abba doesn't stay up this late. Abba doesn't just sit in the corner. Abba explains the reason he sits in that corner is because it makes him feel closer to his family. And then he explains his day to Ramy. And he received a phone call from a man from the mosque that he had become friends with. And this man tells him a story of how he works a lot. And he came home today and he found his wife crying in the kitchen. And then she confesses everything and how she's been sleeping with a boy named Ramy. And I was going to say Ramy Youssef, but Ramy Hassan. And then the cat is out of the bag. The dad knows. And look, here's the thing about being Middle Eastern. I would almost rather go to jail than have my dad find out something bad about me. I mean, that shame, that guilt, he doesn't get hit. No, he doesn't even raise his voice. Farouk doesn't even raise his voice. But Ramy, who's always been on the fence about his activity and his dealings, man, he felt like lower than scum. He sat there and just his jaw was just open though. And Farouk explained how coming to America, he thought he was doing the right thing for his family. He took it all the way back to immigration. That's the real guilt. That's when you know you're in trouble. That's when you know the worst isn't when you're getting yelled at. The worst isn't when you're getting spanked. The worst is when you have disappointed your parent. And his dad is disappointed. But then he relates to the time his father seemed to be disappointed with him for coming to America. So we hear Giddu, grandfather be brought up, and there's these tapes that exist where the tapes Farouk didn't know how to contact his family, so he would mail them tapes, and then the grandfather started mailing tapes back, and the tapes, you would think they're going to be fun, good tapes, but no, the tapes were, why did you leave to go? You are a disgrace. And we see that dichotomy between Ramy and his father, except what Ramy's done is such a burden and shame on the entire family, especially this is someone at their mosque. Oh my gosh, this was such a strong episode. It had the adventure, and we learned about Ramy and Steve and their friendship because we'd been missing Steve. And now we get, and we were thinking, like, what is going to happen? This affair something has to happen. But we weren't suspecting that he would get found out by his parents. Maybe the husband would come in, something, but no, this was the wife told. And it all started off with Ramy getting her son a toy. And that is all for episode 7, Nemi Kitpa, and episode 8, Saving Michaela. Let's get into that special segment, shall we? Special segment with Ramy. Every week, we will be learning a new word, a Ramy word. It's an Arabic word, but it's a word that we learned on Ramy. This week's word is astaghfirullah, which translates to I seek forgiveness from Allah. But it is used in the same way of oh my God, or it's actually used when you know you're doing something wrong. It's used in a playful way most of the times, or it's used when it is serious. It's used from one person to another. But astaghfirullah, if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, it's like, oh, I seek forgiveness from Allah for you. People do it often. If you do something wrong or you're doing something, even if it's playfully wrong, it comes up a lot. So astaghfirullah is astaghfirullah, and that's what it means. I seek forgiveness from Allah. Let's get into some news and gossip while we can.
AfterBuzz TV News.
News and gossip. We find 2 must-read Ramy interviews. One is on Vulture, how a lifelong friendship led to Steve Wei's Ramy role. We find out that Ramy and Steve Wei are actually lifelong friends, and that Steve Wei is a stand-up comedian from New Jersey, and that they grew up together and they're real life best friends. And Steve Wei has muscular dystrophy. And here we discuss how he substitutes his income as a substitute teacher at Rutherford High School, where he's from Rutherford, New Jersey. And it's great to watch this friendship blossom on screen. You might want to read it on Vulture. You learn so much insight into Steve. And we also get the concept of Ramy. And when I say Ramy, Ramy can teach you how to wudu. And if you remember, wudu is the wash before you pray at the mosque. So he definitely wrote, and that's also on Vulture, so make sure to find that. Ramy is winning, and that's in a big way. Everyone is catching on to Ramy. It's actually talk of the town. If you've driven down anywhere on Sunset, you see the billboards everywhere you go. So make sure to tune into Ramy all the time. We appreciate you for watching us each and every week. We do have more. I will be back, and we're going to have a full panel next time. Real quick, let's let you know where to find me. Find me at I Am Tehran all across the board. That's IAMTEHRAN all across the board. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also hosting and paneling on a slew of AfterBuzz after shows. I'm always around. I love the same TV programs that all of you do. So make sure to tune in for more Ramy. Next time we are going, and this is the thing. Remember, the next 2 episodes we covered, 9 and 10, Dude, Where's My Country and Cairo Cowboy. I don't know what they're about, but I cannot wait to find out. They are the last 2 episodes of Ramy, Hulu's Ramy Season 1. So make sure to stay tuned for the next time. Until then, to infinity and beyond, ma salama.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.